friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aireonna, and I wanted to talk about the conference championship games. Before I get into it, I just want to acknowledge what's been going on in real life. I haven't made a video in the last couple days because it's been pretty hard to see such horrible atrocities and then think or talk about football or anything else. But I do think that there is something to finding moments to escape the chaos and experience joy or relief, because I think that then gives you the energy to kind of stand up for your neighbor, to be a good community member, friend, family member, to protest or donate. I think you have to be able to recharge in order to do that, which is the reason that I do feel okay kind of talking about football right now. But I just want to make it clear where I stand for anyone who doesn't know. If you watch my content, you definitely do. But, it's F ICE, it's abolish ICE. What they've been doing in Minneapolis and all over is atrocious. They've actually been doing this for years and years, going all the way across the country, and the tactics that ICE are using right now. They have location maps from Plantar, which is a horrible, AI driven media company owned by billionaires, and that was used against Palestinians with the Israel-Palestine conflict. So I just want to make it, clear. I support Black and brown people. Women and children, obviously men too. I don't support the killing of any of these innocent people. I think that America can make up narratives that anyone is the bad guy, as we've seen from the two videos that we've seen with our own eyes. The government will straight up lie to you about what you're seeing. So no doubt that's going on overseas in those conflicts as well. And, now that it's here, I feel really terrible. I mean, aside from the death that we saw a kid get, two children get kidnapped. There's obviously horrible storms headed for Texas and New York, Boston, all that area. There's, what I would consider, I know they're detention centers, but concentration camps in Texas with thousands and thousands of innocent children that were born here, but they were detained because their parents were taken away or whatever. They don't have beds, they don't have food, they don't have medical. So there's a lot more deaths going on than just the ones that we've seen. And I just don't want to, talk about football and have anyone think that football is on the top of my mind or that these things aren't vitally important to me. I went to a sit-in in Oakland, a protest in Oakland last night after Alex Peretti, a VA nurse. I come from a family of veterans. My dad was in the military. His brothers were in the military, his dad. So a VA nurse. I worked for the VA when I was in college at UC Santa Barbara, the veterans clinic there. Guy seemed like an incredible stand-up guy who was helping, a woman. And it's my opinion that if he didn't help that woman, they might've murdered her. So I think that's a true patriot, someone who deserves tons of respect. And, kind of sucks that the NFL didn't hold a moment of silence for him, right? They held a moment of silence for a racist podcaster, but not for a true American. Everything that it seems like he stood for are the values that my dad wanted me to stand for as someone who loved his country, loved the people, and wanted to help his neighbors and help his community. That's what Alex Peretti seemed like. That's what my dad raised me to be like. And I know maybe that'll have some people want to unfollow or unsubscribe because I'm talking about politics. I think everything's political. When I started this YouTube channel, it was during COVID and I was back home. I lived in Santa Barbara for a lot, and I went back to Sonoma County for a while, and I was hanging out with my dad, and we were reconnecting. And a big thing that we would do was watch football games together. So I found some YouTube channels that would show film, and I learned a lot about the game and got to talk with my dad about it, and then started this YouTube channel a little bit after. And I think I was kind of getting my voice back because I got pretty sad during COVID. But for the majority of my life, I've been an extremely loud, outgoing person. And I think I'm, very joyful and positive and friendly, but I've always been really political, going back to high school and before then. So if that's something that bothers you, that's something that I'm not going to shy away from here. And, I do think this is political, but I actually think that, when I look at NFL Twitter, a lot of times I think it's not the most liberal or leftist or democratic place. And it seems like the majority of people on there are also agreeing that this is horrible. So maybe this is not that it's, of course, horrible and I wish it didn't happen, but maybe this, everyone watching this clear execution murder, maybe brings people together. Because I think I'm seeing people who are, been Republicans for the majority of their life or whatever. They're like, hey, this is wrong. And, I grew up in Sonoma County. I've since lived in lots of very, very liberal places, but growing up, I lived in the Russian River area that was pretty redneck. And I think even a lot of people in my hometown who maybe, thought that they were Republicans or whatever, they can see this and they can see it's wrong. And a lot of them don't agree with like whatever Trump is doing. And they don't think of that as conservative. They think of, owning a gun and being able to hunt and less taxes or whatever. That's what they think is conservative. So I implore you, if you did grow up or for the majority of your life, you've been Republican, I don't think whatever is happening in this administration is, what the party you think you stand for stands for. This is ripping families apart. This is harming U.S. citizens. So, and just to be clear, I've never been Republican, but I'm just saying, if you are, I don't think this needs, you don't need to die on the hill that ICE murdering people is what you stand for, because I bet it's not. So, I think the majority of humans, I like to believe that the majority of humans are good in their core, and you can see, a mother, a son, and you can empathize and think, what if this was happening in my community? Would I be scared? Would I be angry? So anyways, I want to get into the games now. Like I said, it's the games have been second to everything that's going on. And I don't just mean the murder yesterday. I mean the kidnapping children, what's been going on for years, but specifically since Trump has been reelected. It seems like he's on a more violent tear than ever before. But anyways, now I want to totally shift and talk about football with the, caveat that I'm still going to be doing work in my community. A big thing that I'm doing is limiting my Amazon. I've kind of stomach issues, so I have a probiotic that I order on Amazon that I'm going to continue, but I'm not going to be shopping at Whole Foods. I'm going to be shopping at Sprouts. I don't regularly use Amazon to order groceries or anything like that anyways, but little ways that you can not support billionaires, that you can not support this administration, calling your senators. Just yesterday, speaking of Democrats, 7 Democrats voted to increase ICE funding. So call your senators. I know it seems, it sucks to hear people say that because it seems like it's not doing anything. I think it's important. When you look at polling, most Americans, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, don't agree with what's happening right now. ICE has not been around forever. This is not like a fundamental core of America. ICE was invented and created, the institution of ICE was invented and created under George Bush after 9/11. They said Al-Qaeda, Iraq, and immigration. Those things were the main issue. Immigration has always been you have to do it legally, but before it was like a paperwork issue. And at max, maybe the police would do something about it. If you broke a law and you went to the courthouse, if you stayed, here illegally and you went to the courthouse, you might get arrested by a police officer, but you would go to actual jail, and you'd have due process and everything that America is about. ICE, the organization that goes door to door to find people and then throw them in detention centers before they have due process, before they they're, by the way, taking American citizens. I'm one of my best friends in the entire world is Lacey. My other best friend is Angela, and she's Native American. She's terrified to leave her house because she's brown. So they are racially profiling people, and ICE did not exist. It does not always need to exist. It has only been expanded. So billions of dollars go to ICE. Those billions of dollars, like when we talk about like taxes and things being way too expensive, like that can go to children. Look at what's happening in New York. They have free childcare for children all the way through pre-K. That, like, the money to have these social programs exist to help veterans, VA veterans. My dad, his medical insurance is through the VA, and it's shitty. And we should treat our veterans better. We should treat our teachers better. And there's money that exists, and instead of it going to those programs, it's going to, literally killing Americans. It's going to an organization that's just there to terrorize and to install fear. Their issue is not even actually immigration. I'm sorry, I'm really going on about this. But like, if it was really immigration, they'd be in Texas. They would be like by the border, but they're not a huge group. And I think that they want to instill fear. And Minneapolis has almost for like its entire history voted blue. And Tim Walz called out Donald Trump. And I think he has a huge ego. And I think that's why they're attacking Minneapolis right now. If they were bigger, I think they would go after New York or California. But anyways, I'm going to get into football. I just want to say there are things you can do. I think taking action, some sort of action, literally, even if it's like baking a cake and giving it to your neighbor, or like any act of kindness, I think that'll make you feel better. I was really doom scrolling yesterday. I watched the video from every single angle. And I think it's really important to stay informed, but I think there's a limit, and taking actions. My dad volunteers at, food giveaway every week. I have so much respect for him for doing that. And those things not only help your community, but they make you feel better. I studied psychology. Like, doing good things for other people is brain-wise, chemistry-wise, we are social creatures. Doing things for other people makes you feel better than even like going out and buying yourself a present. And obviously you want to treat yourself well too, but psychologically we are conditioned to take care of each other as human beings. So I know right now it feels hopeless, and it's like, okay, where do I begin? If you don't know where to begin, literally like pay for someone's coffee tomorrow, smile at a neighbor, call a family member that you haven't talked to in a while, like small acts, even within your own system. My best friend is a teacher, and she really talked about a lecture that she gave and kind of like talking a lot about empathy and media literacy. So you understand, like, is what you're seeing real or not? Like, however it applies to your life, I guarantee that you can make an impact. And even if it doesn't feel like big, it will feel like you're doing something. And I do think taking action, at least for me, going and sitting at town hall, like, I don't know how much that actually did, but I know it showed me like there's other people that feel like me, and I feel like I'm doing something. So anyways, I love you guys so much, and I will get into football now. I'm not even going to look at the comments because I'm so scared that they're horrible. Okay. Sam Darnold. I'm going to start with the game that just happened. We'll talk a little bit about the Broncos Patriots in a minute, but the Super Bowl is happening at Levi's in 2 weeks. Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks are going to be going, and I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm sorry if I'm just starting off strong. It's going to be, top, if you look at rankings, EPA, whatever you give that, but like top rankings in the NFL per PFF. The Patriots offense has been number one for the last several weeks, and the Seattle defense has been number one. So top offense against top defense, but Seattle Seahawks, their offense has really stepped it up as well. And you've got to give credit to Sam Darnold. For a long time, it felt like he was kind of tallying along and just not messing it up, which is still, by the way, very impressive. But he hasn't thrown an interception in 3 weeks straight. He made some clutch plays down the stretch. He has a really strong cannon arm. As a 49er YouTuber, I went to training camp, and a lot of you guys probably know Matt Mayoko. He's been a beat reporter for the 49ers forever. He said on record when Sam Darnold was with the 49ers as backup that he had the best arm that he's seen since Steve Young. Sam Darnold was the number 3 overall pick. He obviously had the athletic talent and ability, but started seeing ghosts in New York. A lot of that was because this is what happens when you have a terrible offensive line, when you're young and you have a ton of pressure on you and it feels like it's all on you. Like, how many guys have we seen flame out with the Jets? But even moving off of the Jets, he struggled a little bit in Carolina. They've really revamped a lot of things since then. They're not there yet, but they've definitely improved. And then a lot of people were upset when they let Geno go and brought in Darnold. Sam Darnold has far outplayed Geno, and you just got to give him, it seems like kind of a Cinderella story. I mean, I remember they played the Rams several weeks ago, and midway through the game, Sam Darnold started melting down, and you were just like, oh shit, is he going to fuck it up? Now, they turned it around, they ended up winning, which was, I feel like, such a confidence booster for Sam Darnold. But it's been really cool to see this guy remake himself. I was at the Minneapolis game 2 years ago, not this season that is currently happening, but the season before, where the 49ers played the Vikings. I saw some Vikings fans who had traveled. They were in the hotel and they had traveled to watch the game. And I, overestimating, being condescending towards Darnold, was kind of like, oh, why would you come to see this game? You have Darnold, you don't stand a chance. And Darnold beat the 49ers. Then he was with the 49ers as a backup. A lot of people talk about, Sam Darnold really credits this organization for teaching him, what a winning organization and winning culture is like, what efficient coaching is like. Brock Purdy, Tom Brady on the broadcast today said that Brock Purdy gives Sam Darnold a ton of credit for teaching him about how to be a pro, how to overcome, the narratives and stuff going on in the league. So it's kind of shitty the 49ers let him go, because he's significantly cheaper than Brock Purdy, and now is going to go win a Super Bowl. But yeah, I guess we can't. Are we allowed to talk about that, or is that too far? Obviously, the Seahawks have a much better roster. I think if you're going to take away anything, if you're comparing the two, you'd probably talk about their GM, right? Like, the Seahawks have an excellent GM, and they built that team to be tremendous. They have strong, aggressive, physical guys in the trenches. They have great wide receivers. They have a great running back, and their defense is fantastic. Seems scary when you think about, like, the 49ers have to play them twice next year. The Seahawks got better against the 49ers each time that they played each other. They played each other and in the beginning of the year, and the 49ers won, but barely. Then they played each other again, and the Seahawks won barely, but it should have been by a lot more. It felt like they didn't play their best game on offense. And then the Seahawks just smashed them, obviously, in the game that eliminated the 49ers from the playoffs. That makes me sad to think about. But I think that that's just kind of a testimony to, like, a young team that's, like, getting adjusted to each other as they go throughout the season, building chemistry. Sam Darnold building chemistry with his wide receiver. Yeah, I can't say enough about, they have excellent coaching, a quarterback who can make clutch plays. And the thing about Sam Darnold, like, when you're comparing him to Brock Purdy, no offense, he's a lot bigger than Brock Purdy. So he can see over the center of the field where sometimes Brock Purdy can't, and you kind of have to get him out. He can take more of a punishment. He has a stronger arm. Brock Purdy can definitely move way better. But Sam Darnold's efficient enough. Like I said, I think they're going to win. Looking at the Rams, they almost won. I still think Stafford's an excellent quarterback. I didn't know who I wanted to win because I wanted them both to lose. I guess the Seahawks winning is nice because they defeated the 49ers, right? So it's like, well, at least you lost to a team that I think is going to go on and win the Super Bowl. So there's no shame in losing to the very best. I mean, there is, like, get better, but like losing to the very best is better than losing to just any team. Yeah. What are some notes that I have? Let me see. Yeah, I said Seahawks are just getting better. They got better. Same thing. I talked about with the 49ers. They did the same thing against the Rams. They got better against the Rams each time that they played them. Good O-line, trenches. They're so fast right away. The Seahawks scored on offense, and I was with my partner, and I was just like, they just have speed that the 49ers do not have. And then from the game with the 49ers, they also have physicality. They have like this aggression. The 49ers were like this a couple of years ago on defense, where if you played the 49ers the next week, there was some crazy stat where every team lost the following week because they'd be so beat up and bruised because the 49ers were so like swarmed to the ball, physical tackle, hit hard. They're not that team anymore. And credit to the Seahawks. They, saw that the 49ers were like that. And they thought, we have to face this team twice a year. We have to build our team to be able to beat that. And they did, which is kind of shitty for coming from a 49er fan, coming from, the Seahawks organization. Credit to them. Super physical, super aggressive defense. Just a rocket arm in Sam Darnold. Like I said, Matt Mayoka said best arm he's seen on the field since Steve Young, which at the time I laughed at. So I'm eating my words with the Sam Darnold stuff. My dad was one of the guys who thought Sam Darnold would be better on a more stable organization too. O-line is really important. Rams and Seahawks both had a good O-line, and that's why that game, it was higher scoring than the Seahawks Niners. And both quarterbacks had the opportunity to really air it out in a way that, like, Brock Purdy is just immediately running for his life. Some of that might be Brock Purdy, not being able to see and trying to scramble out to get a better view of the field. But some of that is that there's a defender in his lap in like seconds because their offensive line just breaks down. And like, how much better is it going to be next year? Like, is Trent Williams going to be able to stay healthy the way he did this season? I mean, I know he ended up getting hurt towards the very end, but like, that was almost impressive. He's going to be 38. Colton McKivitz, I mean, he had a good run, but is he the best? Kyle Shanahan said he thought Jake Brendel was one of the best centers in the NFL. That's insane. That's delusion. And like, maybe you just got to talk up a guy while he's on your roster and you're going to actually go and, get someone better. But if they choose not to, like, that's willful ignorance. And at some point you got to look, if you're Jed York, the owner, you got to look at Kyle, look at John and say, if you're not willing to fix these parts of your roster that are clearly lacking, then we're going to bring someone else in who will. And I'm not suggesting fire Kyle, but I'm saying, like, can't they promote John Lynch to like president, bring in an actual GM who actually scouts, who actually watches football games, college games, NFL games, and like knows who to get in free agency, knows who to go up and get in the draft? That's what the Seahawks have. They have a real GM. Kyle wanted to hire John Lynch because he didn't know how to talk to the media 10 years ago when he first got the head coaching job. And he thought that John Lynch was like kind of a politician guy because he worked in the media. John Lynch doesn't have a background of scouting. And Kyle likes to have final say, but Kyle has admitted that he doesn't watch the college football players till after the NFL. Which like gives him a very, like, the draft is about to happen. I mean, it's not like about to happen, but it's going to happen in like 2 months. The combine is like in a month. If you're drafting only based on a guy watching footage for 1 month versus multiple years, which is what these scouts are doing. So they need to give the scouts final say. I think they need to, I'm not saying fire Lynch, but promote him to president. He can still have a small say, but like get a guy who knows what he's doing, or defer more to your scouts. I mean, they have scouts, but they don't. It's like they get a suggestion, and then John Lynch and Kyle, who just watched the highlights, get to make the final say. That doesn't seem fair. And it's obviously not effective. I mean, if you look at their drafting, it's horrible. I'm sorry to say. I mean, this year, maybe it's a little better. Upton Stout looks good. Michael Williams looked like, what we thought he would look like. He's still younger before he got injured, but That's an issue too. They draft tons of injury-prone players. They draft Ricky Pearsall's older than any of the starting wide receivers in the 4 games that we saw, or 4 teams that we saw today. They drafted him and he was almost like 26. And then he's been injured for 2 years. Maybe he'll be better. When he's on the field and healthy, he's good. But like the best availability or the best ability is availability. Like that was a reach. We knew that was a reach. Nick Martin was a reach. Like I said, Upton Stout seems good. Michael Williams seems good. CJ West and Alfred Collins. They came on a little bit towards the end, but Ricky Pearsall was a bad pick. Every wide receiver, Danny Gray, Jacob Cowing, like all these guys that, by the way, are like, they're small dudes, but they're supposed to be fast. Like I was just saying, when I was watching Seattle, especially in the first half, I was like, they have speed. If you look at the Rams, they have speed. Also, Puka not only is very fast, but he can get separation. And even if he doesn't, he can get yards after catch. But the 49ers need to invest in speed. They have a lot of big body guys that can kind of like try to hit their way through guys. They need another running back. I think that Chris McCaffrey should be utilized in the passing game. He could be like, sprinkled in, but he can't be the number one guy. And that's nothing against Christian. It's the fact that he's averaging not even 3 yards per carry for the past 2 years, and he's older, and he's had tons and tons and tons of miles on him. Christian himself, by the way, in a press conference, like for anyone thinking I'm a hater, came out and said that he's fine next year being more of a wide receiver. Like, these guys aren't idiots. I mean, some of them maybe are, but Christian's not an idiot. He knows that he's not being as effective. Like, is it impressive? He's in line to get tons of awards because of how many touches he got. And it's impressive to get that many touches and be able to stay healthy, for sure. I'm not trying to like discredit that. But like, touches doesn't mean production. And Christian himself is not blind to the fact that he's not being that productive. By the way, they drafted Jordan James. When I talk about running back, they drafted Jordan James from Oregon, a college that they like, a coaching staff that John Lynch talks about how much he likes. And they didn't play him until the playoff game. He got no snaps all year. And then, by the way, in his first run, had 7 yards per carry. So it's like, even if they draft well, like even if they do get John Lynch to, move up to president and they get another GM there, part of the battle is going to be like, hey, Kyle, you need to play these guys. Like, Jordan James can't just sit on your bench all year and then you wait to a playoff game to play him for the very first time. Jacob Cowing, he was asked, reporters asked over and over, where's Cowing? How's Cowing? Is he going to be activated? Kyle was just like, nope, not activated. Not up this week. Maybe next week. Why not? You need speed. They're going to be losing Jennings. Ayuk is officially off the roster. Okay. Like I said, Seahawks, kind of a Cinderella story for Darnold. 25 of 36 for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Third game in a row with 0 interceptions. That's another thing. Brock Purdy, you can't put the ball in harm's way. Don't do that. It's all connected too. If you have a good O-line, you're less likely to turn the ball over. Of course, I'm not trying to put it all on Brock, but I'm saying when you look at the roster as a whole, you can see how every single level for the 49ers needs to improve in order to be able to keep up with the Seahawks, a team that they face twice a year. And looking at it, also the Rams, that also looked significantly better. I mean, they were in there playing the game with the Seahawks. The 49ers couldn't score a touchdown in either of the last 2 games against the Seahawks. The Rams were in a totally different league. The Rams were actually competing. They almost won this game. Part of that was kind of because of a taunting penalty that I thought was a little bit BS. Not that it was, he was taunting, but like taunting is so, come on now. It's a playoff game. Let them play. Yeah. Rams had that muff pump too. Their special teams is horrible. If they fix that, they're gonna improve greatly. We saw that with the 49ers. Just improving your special teams is so important. The 49ers lost. Sorry, I just got mad again. The 49ers lost Robert Saleh. Like, I'm hoping that they're gonna get better. There's an opportunity for them to get worse. They lost Robert Saleh. Fuck. It's scary when you see that. 31-27. The Rams scored multiple touchdowns. Matthew Stafford did not turn the ball over. The 49ers did not do that against the Seahawks in any game that they played this year. Even the first one that they won. Their offense did not look great. It barely squeaked out a win. That was more of a, I think, credit to the defense before they got completely, throttled. I'll look at comments in just a second. But yeah, so I guess that's my takeaway from watching the Seahawks Rams. First of all, going into that game, I said, and I still believe, I was like, whoever wins this game is going to win the Super Bowl. The NFC West, NFC Championship game seemed to be the more dominant team. And then, yeah, both teams looked as impressive as hell. And they both had hella good quarterbacks that at the very end you believed could get the ball in the end zone and win them the game. And they both had really good defenses that you thought could get them a stop. And they had good weapons that you felt like the quarterback trusted. And they had good O-lines that gave the quarterbacks time. So those are all things that the 49ers need. I said there's a draft in like a month. They need more picks. I don't think that they should trade down, but they shouldn't trade up because they definitely need picks. Okay, let me see with some chats, and then we'll talk a little bit. I mean, Patriots, I guess before I get into the chat, Patriots beat the Broncos. It was a snow game. It looked beautiful on TV. It was 10-7. It's hard when Jared Stidham is your quarterback. I'm not trying to give the Broncos an out. But I don't know. Let them take him then? I don't know either. Who are you talking about, Daddy? I gotta read the chat before I respond. Sorry, or I gotta read the comments before I'll get to the comments in a second. Patriots, I don't want them to win. I think going into this, I thought that I didn't want the Rams to win and I didn't want the Seahawks to win. I was going to root for whatever the AFC team was. But I like it. I like that the 49ers are kind of in the mix of having a history of one of the teams with the most Super Bowls. And if the Patriots just get back there again and they get 7 Super Bowls, shit, man. Good for Mike Vrabel. He was just he was let go of by the Titans. Can't believe, I'm sorry, I'm bringing this back to the Niners because I'm a Niner. I can't believe Robert Saleh took the Titans job. The Titans just fired Mike Vrabel. He's obviously an excellent coach. The Titans are a dumpster fire organization. By the way, they had one of the guys, Rand Carthen from the 49ers. He was the GM there for a little bit. He lasted like one year past Mike Vrabel, and then they fired him too. I know that they have Cam Ward, so maybe Robert Saleh, he wanted to go somewhere with a quarterback, but wouldn't you rather? I mean, the Steelers hired Mike McCarthy. What a weirdo. Wouldn't you rather go there or just stay with the 49ers another year than go to an organization that has a history of horrible decisions? Because obviously Mike McCarthy's great. Drake May, pretty impressive. Honestly, for all the shit I just talked, Jared Stidham, his first throw, that first touchdown was really impressive downfield. It felt like bad decisions kind of with the Broncos. They should have gone up. They had a chance to go kick a field goal and go to 10 early on was it in the second quarter? And then the snow just got really bad and it felt like neither team could really throw the ball. And both kickers missed a kick I think one of the kickers missed 2 kicks at one point. So that game, it kind of like, weather's fun and it's obviously about football, but I think the weather really impacted that. Broncos clearly had a really good defense because I assumed that it was going to be a way higher scoring game. Maybe I was off on that. But when you look at a lot of the games that the Broncos and the Patriots have played, their offense has been like guys that go for shootouts. The Patriots are regularly scoring 25 to 35 points. And the Broncos have had games where they do that too. So I assumed it was going to be high scoring. It was not. And I think a lot of that was because of weather. Now, I'm a little bit of a Sean Payton hater just with the Bounty Gate stuff. He was really arrogant to a reporter earlier this week, too. I think that was bad karma. So, I don't know. I'm happy for Mike Vrabel. Good for Drake May. You know, every quarterback that's in the Super Bowl right now was a high draft pick, taking it back to the 49ers. things that matter that we wish didn't matter but do matter. Height, weight, being able to be tough, taking hits and not getting injured. Those are all traits that, no offense, Brock Purdy doesn't have. And he's great. Like, he does great with what he's given, with what his ability is. But having a strong arm, being able to see over the middle of the field, those things are important. And there's a reason that these guys, every guy, in the final thing besides Jared Stidham, was a high draft pick. It's because those traits matter, and they help you win big games, and they help you be able to score, and they help you not get injured. The 49ers, I don't think they can let Mac Jones go, because Brock Purdy missed 8 games this year. And he might, knock on wood, I hope he doesn't, but he could miss games again. He runs around a lot, and he's a little dude. You can't take that much punishment. Look at Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's his scrambling ability is incredible, but he misses half the season every year because he's a little dude and he gets hurt. He misses wide open throws or throws interceptions whenever he has to throw over the middle. Who does that sound like? Kind of like Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy, at least recently, has played a little bit better than Kyler, but he's more similar to Kyler than he is to Drake May or Sam Darnold. Did I do a good job recapping the Patriots? I don't want them to win because I feel like they've won enough. I did assume that the Patriots would win just because it was Jared Stidham. And I don't really love Sean Payton, and I like Mike Vrabel more. I think he's a cooler dude. I think the Seahawks are going to win. And going into the Rams-Seahawks game, I thought whatever team won that would win. It'll be an interesting game because the weather I don't think is going to be, a huge issue here at Levi Stadium. It might be a little cold, but it's not going to be snowing or anything. Knock on wood, maybe it'll end up raining, but I don't think right now it's predicted to have any sort of weather. So I do think we'll see a more high-powered Patriots offense, and it'll be interesting. I had a lot of praise for Sam Darnold just now, but he's lost to the Patriots every single time he's played them. Now I think a lot of those games he was on the Jets, so it's a team sport. But let me see. Yeah, Sam Darnold against the Patriots in his career, he's played them 4 times, lost 6-24, 14-28, 0-33, and 3-38. So he has not played the Patriots well, but like I said, those were also when he was with the Jets, and I don't think necessarily will reflect, but he's still got another game to, prove. Even if he loses, if he doesn't turn the ball over or make any dumb plays, I'm going to give him credit for kind of turning the narrative around. But if he shits the bed, people are not going to let him, hear the end of it. So I'm sure that's going to be a lot of mental pressure. If he does make a bad play, he's going to need to be able to flush it, because I'm sure all those, narrative, he knows what the people are saying about him. So he's going to have to blank that out, clear that out of his mind when he's playing. Anyways, now I'm going to go to the chat. I love you guys. First game reminded me of Brent preseason team. It was awful. Yeah, I know. I did not like. I agree, Julie. It was. Patriots will win because the failed. Okay. Cosplaying presidency prop. That was a lot. Eric Gomez is with me. He thinks Seattle wins. Julie says he's mid, period. Brock Purdy's mid, period. End of story. I unfortunately agree. Agree with what I said with Brock Purdy. He's just not as good as Sam, those strong arm quarterbacks. Yeah. He can scramble better, but part of being a quarterback, Steve Young always said there's a balance. I want to be able to scramble, but part of the time I need to stand in the pocket and be able to throw the ball, zip the ball downfield. Brock Purdy can make a throw, but it takes a little. If you had Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy right next to each other and they were both throwing the ball, Brock Purdy might be able to throw the ball the same, end up the same distance, but it's going to float a little in the air. It's going to take a lot longer. Darnold can zip it, which means he has the opportunity. He can give his wide receiver a little bit of a beat, where Brock Purdy, he said this himself. He has to throw with anticipation a lot, which means he's predicting where the wide receiver is. But sometimes the wide receiver isn't there, and that's what ends up being interceptions a lot, is especially if your ball's floating too long, the defender can go, oh, I see exactly where the ball's going. With a fastball, defenders are sometimes they're not fast enough at reacting. So, Seahawks seem like the 2023 Niners. I think they'll come up short in the Super Bowl like the Niners do. Maybe. I definitely get the comparison. Like defensive led, good enough offense, like very good offense. They have good wide receivers. They have a great running back. They have a good enough quarterback. But defense is strong and physical and tough. Yeah, maybe. If they end up losing, this comment predicted it. My bet is on Saleh. He's up there with Mike McDaniel. Give him 2 years. Yeah. I think, I wish he didn't go to the Titans, but, and I don't know if we would know this yet. Kyle Shanahan did this with the 49ers. Jed York had been going through coaches and firing them after 1 year. And so when they went to hire Kyle, he said he wouldn't sign a deal unless they guaranteed him, I think it was 4 years. So basically said, you cannot fire me and or my contract is guaranteed for 4 years to try to be like, I'm going to need time to turn this around. Hopefully Robert Saleh did something like that because I don't think you're going to be able to turn around the Titans in 1 year. Now, to be fair, the Seahawks missed the playoffs last year and the Patriots missed the playoffs last year. And they both were able to turn it around 1 year. I think that they were kind of both already in the rebuilding stage, though. They were just very young teams, and I think they were a year away. Both teams kind of remind me like who they were last year was kind of like the Bears this year. I don't think anyone thinks the Bears are going to suck next year. It's just like, oh, they were like a year away. They were young, and they're going to continue to get better. That's how I felt about these two teams last year, and I think the Titans, it'll take them, at least 2 years to kind of turn it around. NFC killed it. This is a good perspective. I think it's been kind of negative about the 49ers. It's impressive that the 49ers, hung around. The fact that it kind of seems like in some ways the real winner of the Super Bowl was whoever won tonight. When you look at the NFC West games or the NFC games, it was the NFC West. That was the most dominant division this year, and the 49ers did hang around. So good for them for that, but I tend to be a little bit more pessimistic when I'm looking at them, and I see a really big divide. And I think if they don't make major changes, they could lose both games to both teams, and then they'll miss the playoffs next year. So I'm like, you gotta get better. Broncos hung in there. They did. They deserve credit. If a kick is made, they might win that game. 49ers are washed. Super Bowl window is almost closed. 1 to 2 years left. I mean, I think they're already kind of in the rebuilding stage of whatever Super Bowl window. I think whatever one they had in 2023 or 2019 is dead. I mean, who were the stars on that team? Debo was at his best. He's not on the team anymore. Brandon Ayuk, not here anymore. Christian McCaffrey was playing like the best player in the league. He's, older. George Kittle's not going to be, hopefully he'll be healthy, mid-season next year, but is he going to be the best tight end in the league? I think that's going to be Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren. I think the league is getting younger. So they're the oldest team in the league, and that's kind of scary. Don't worry about it. We're full go back option. Okay. I don't know what that means, but thank you. 49ers should have kept Darnold. They could have had Purdy, Darnold, Jones. That's a wicked trio. I mean, I think you got to make a choice. You can't. I think it's good to have a good backup, of course, especially on this team where they don't prioritize the offensive line. Your starting quarterback's going to get hurt. But, all three of those quarterbacks are going to get paid to be starting caliber quarterbacks by one team. I think it's less about having a quarterback room and more about having a star or a really good quarterback. So, Oliver is very positive. I guess we'll never win a championship. I give up. I don't know. I mean, don't say that. I think they need a lot, but with some personnel changes and guys getting healthier on defense, at least, they need to add a lot to their offense, I think. But I do think Kyle's a good coach. He's kind of blown it against the Seahawks, which scares me when we think about they're gonna meet up with the Seahawks each year. But I'm hopeful. I don't want to be this. I don't want to. I know I've been negative a lot here, and the 49ers need to add a lot, but I don't want to be totally Debbie Downer. Like they do. I think Brock can be good enough. They need to get him a good offensive line. Tom Brady talked all night long. He made several comments about both the Rams and the Seahawks and how excellent their offensive line is and how their front office has prioritized the offensive line, and that's helped the quarterback so much. So, I don't want to be totally, Brock Purdy, I think we saw in 2023 what he did. He really struggled in the Super Bowl. That was not his best game. But, Chris McCaffrey fumbled at the goal line. I think they need to add another running back. They need to bolster their offensive line. They got to get healthy on defense and add some physicality on defense. They got a lot of things, but they got to improve a lot. But I don't want to say, never. Don't be too sad. I'm just reading some comments. Best game of the year, hands down. Oh, hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you guys. I really would appreciate that. I'm going to be going live maybe tomorrow with Tom Jensen. Normally Tom and I go on Tuesday, but I think we talked last week about it being nice to go on Monday, day after the game. You have a little time for your emotions to calm down, but it's still fresh. It's 3 p.m. wherever this guy is. Oh, Ozzy. Headed to a sports bar. There's a really big Seahawks sports bar in San Francisco. I saw a lot of people were at. I'm happy for Darnold, but I'm still a fan at the end of the day. I wasn't gonna go to a Seahawks sports bar. I'm kind of, I was like, good job, but also screw you, I don't know. I when I grew up, like my dad, obviously he, in his mind, the biggest rivalry is the Seahawks versus Cowboys, because in his time, those games, that was the Super Bowl. But for me, I remember growing up, and this boy that I had a crush on in high school, he was a Seahawks fan, and it was during the Russell Wilson era and the Legion of Boom. So they would beat us all the time, and I hated the Seahawks. So I have a hard time rooting for them. Now, I do think Sam Darnold's a great story. The coach seems, like a hell of a coach. Sean McVay showed he showed heart after the special teams blunder. I kind of wanted Sean McVay to. The thing is, he already has a Super Bowl. That's another issue. If the Seahawks win, that means 2 teams in your division have won a Super Bowl before you have, and during Kyle Shanahan's era. That's not great. Like in the amount of time that Kyle Shanahan has been the 49ers coach, the Rams have already won a Super Bowl. Now if the Seahawks go on to do it, that doesn't look great. I thought both coaches played very well. I thought it was a hell of a game. Patriots will be a cakewalk. I kind of agree, Julie, that now I gotta admit, I watch the NFC games a lot more throughout the year. So I haven't watched a ton of the Patriots, and I know that they've been higher scoring before. So I'm hopeful that it's a good game. I felt like last year with the Eagles kind of blew out the Chiefs, which was a little cathartic because F the Chiefs. But at the same time, I like close, fun games, especially if the Niners aren't playing. I'm like, it better be a good game. If it's a blowout, I start to not care as much. JM16 is talking about all the white players got together and played a bunch of rounds of golf. This guy says Darnold is only good because he's on the best team. He's a slow processor, and his arm needs his arm to bail him out. Why he throws so many picks? He hasn't thrown a pick. He threw far less picks than Brock Purdy this year and has not thrown a pick in the playoffs or to start the playoffs. So maybe I understand that there's a perception that he throws a lot of interceptions, But this year, he's thrown significantly less picks than Brock Purdy did, and he's played 2 more games than Brock Purdy. And he hasn't thrown a pick in the last 4 games, including tonight. So, but yeah, I mean, he does have a really strong arm that can get him out of trouble when he needs it. I'm not saying Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold is the best. He's definitely being propped up by an excellent coach and an excellent O-line and an excellent defense. I already said, when I look at the two teams, I don't think the Seahawks have a high-powered offense. I think it's high-powered defense against high-powered offense in the Patriots. But I do think Darnold played very clutch tonight, made hella good, some clutch throws, and hasn't really shit the bed recently. So I'm not going to start doubting him now. You know, if he does it in the Super Bowl, then he has his reputation, but he has a chance to undo it. That's what I'll say. Regarding Brendel, Kyle is only helping carry water for the org on Brendel being a $4 million salary cap Band-Aid. But Kyle seriously thinks he can win with undrafted Jags on the O-line like his dad did. Yeah, I mean, I really hope they bolster that offensive line. They need the interior offensive line. I think that's a huge part in why the run game struggled so much and why Brock Purdy did end up scrambling and like feeling so much pressure, especially at the end. In their 2 matchups against the Seahawks, the Seahawks got tons of pressure from the inside. So they really need to bolster up the O-line. I hope I did a good job at saying I'm not giving all the credit to Darnold. I'm saying Darnold's an excellent story and he's not blowing it. He's being, neutral to positive, and the rest of his team is excellent, and you have to give their front office and their GM tons of credit. And when I'm comparing them to the 49ers, I think, okay, Brock Purdy in his final Super Bowl game didn't do enough, and he needs a better offensive line. He needs a better defense. He needs wide receiver and running back help. I'm being more critical of the 49ers front office and GM than I am of anything else. But I do think it's fair to compare, being big and strong to not, Okay. I think I'm going to let you guys go. I know that this was a little bit shorter, but I have to go have dinner. I'm going to go live. Someone said, fire Kyle Shanahan. His offense is overrated. We're not going to do that now. And, they're not going to do that now because he was just in the Coach of the Year conversation. But if 2 coaches in his own division win a Super Bowl and he refuses to give up control of personnel, like he needs to manage the team, do the offense. Don't pick you can have like an input like, oh, I like this guy, but defer to the experts when it comes to drafting. And, I think John Lynch is getting a lot of shit, deservedly so, but Kyle and Lynch have done press conferences together where Kyle has admitted like he's the one that has final say, not Lynch. So is it Lynch's problem? Yeah, because he's not doing it and he deserves criticism for not doing it. But at the same time, that's why Kyle brought him in, because he knew he'd be able to kind of, override him. So I think Jed York, as the ultimate guy on top of Kyle, needs to be able to come down and say, hey, Kyle, you need to give up a little bit of power so you can focus on what you're good at. When you look at Bill Belichick, when you look at Mike Shanahan, Kyle's own dad, their downfall was taking on too much and stuff that they weren't as good at, and then they weren't building good teams, and they were losing. But anyways, I really got to go have dinner. I love you guys so much. Kisses, kisses, kisses. Please stay safe out there. I'm going to go live tomorrow with Tom Jensen. Talk about the Niners, all that stuff. Talk about the 2 games, covering the Super Bowl, all that. So make sure to give me a like and subscribe. Really appreciate you guys listening to the beginning half of that. If it's not your thing, you can always, skip forward. But I wanted to talk about that before I talked about the games. And then I think, we did a good job talking about the games. I love Eric, Julie, Papa J, my dad, everyone, all the regulars, more life. Thank you guys so much for commenting. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have an excellent night. Drink some water before you go to bed. Bye.